We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I remain your host, Mark Angelides, and we continue to be joined by Lisa K. Dunn, Liberty Nation's executive editor. Now, Lisa, let's talk about this year just gone and the death of PC culture, because I think those bells are tolling. What say you?
Well, I think the bells are tolling. I was just thinking about Notre Dame's bells starting to toll again after being refurbished. But, it seems to me like it may be premature to say it's dead, but it's dying for sure. So I think, Mark, Americans have just had enough of this PC culture. I mean, the stores are backing off from all this DEI stuff. And I think, it goes back to actually the taxpayer. They're tired of funding this stuff. And the Doge that's coming up with Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, I think, has government people sort of shaking in their boots.
I actually suspect that it goes even deeper than that. And I'd like to put some of the credit to Professor Jordan B. Peterson, who has really been speaking out on this kind of thing. And the point that he makes is that if you're not saying what you feel you should say, if you're not speaking your words, whose words are you speaking? And for me, that really cuts to the heart of it, is when we talk about politically correct language and politically correct culture, where we're saying things that are not our own words, and we know they're not our own words, because if you say the even slightly wrong word, or the slight variation, I know there was a recent furor about person of color versus colored person, and people had to go out and apologize profusely for it. And when you have this kind of thing, you're not saying your words, you're saying specifically prescribed words. So you're not speaking for yourself, which is strange when every other person seems to be saying, well, I'm living my truth. Well, you're not, are you? You're living somebody else's truth. You're living the state-prescribed truth. And I think that is really at the heart of this blowback against what is essentially a coercive, controlling indoctrination of the mind from almost from birth. Because if people don't hear truth spoken from when they're born, how are they going to know to speak truth when they're adults?
Well, that's well said. And I think, too, it goes against American sense of fairness. I think so much of what's happened in this last year goes against American sense of fairness. I think 91 indictments went against their sense of fairness. I think having to march in lockstep to what everybody else is doing on college campuses goes against their sense of fairness. I think even the Secret Service not covering the land that they're supposed to land, including the high ground, goes against their sense of, if not fairness, their ability to do things properly.
What?
And so the government is kind of, and the media is taking a hit this year too.
Sure. Very much. We've seen MSNBC is about to be, and I wasn't familiar with this term, but spun off from
right.
from NBC, and it can't come a moment too soon. I mean, NBC's done a lot, and it really does have a great reputation, but it is tarnished by the sheer lunacy that comes out of the mouths of the folks over at MSNBC.
Well, and then CBS takes an interview and cuts it up, and they lose their credibility, And so now what they're looking at is changing the culture in the White House press briefing room, the James S. Brady press briefing room, and this has really got them.
Tell our listeners these details, because this is fascinating. Lisa has a great article on the pages of libertynation.com, sponsor of this here show. But please give us the brief outline so we can encourage everybody to go and read that.
Okay, so apparently Don Jr., the son of Donald Trump, was on a podcast. I think it may have been his own podcast. And he said, maybe it's time to open up the press briefing room to other people. Well, the press briefing room has always been a very elite, cloistered, close-knit group. And they work in tandem with the Senate House Committee, too. So, a number of years ago when we started LN, I looked into, becoming a member of, you have to become a member of the White House Correspondents Association. And so your outlet has to meet certain criteria, and your people have, I mean, it's like getting into the worst kind of country club in the nation, you know? And it's kind of a country club, but switching that up and allowing podcasters like Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly and, that would really, really shake up the White House press room, because everything is in pecking order. They have assigned seats, where everybody's allowed to sit.
Here's the rows. This is for the top tier. This is for... But yeah, it's it really, as you say, it's a country club. Perhaps one with Bill Murray as the groundskeeper. But the idea that there might be people who actually have the pulse of the nation, I think this was demonstrated vividly during the last election. It's the podcasters. It's the people who are having the conversations that people want to hear, because their shows, they vastly outnumber the listenership, or the viewership even on some of them, of the regular shows on the old networks, the legacy networks. And there's a reason for that. It's because people want to hear what their take is. They want to hear the answers to the questions that they're asking. They don't want to hear, and I don't include Peter Ducey in this, by the way, because he has provided me with hours of entertainment. But they don't want to hear somebody ask a question that nobody wants the answer to, and then have an answer that is read verbatim from the file by Karine Jean-Pierre, and then we're no wiser for it. And I think that's the key point, isn't it? We don't become wiser when you have people who aren't interested in getting at the truth, getting answers from people who aren't interested in giving the truth. And so we're no wiser for watching the press briefings. I mean, some of us may feel a lot stupider for having listened to these White House press briefings. But if you get people, as you say, like podcasters in there, people who have made a living and made a career and carved out a niche themselves by asking questions that people want to know the answer to. I mean, that's a sea change.
You expect the White House press secretary to come up with spin. I mean, you expect that. That's their job. And that's been done for decades. But you're right. You should have the ability to at least ask pointed, difficult questions. And it's not just the legacy broadcast media. The legacy print media, the corporate print media, is really suffering too. And what's been happening, as Joe Schaefer would tell you, is they're starting to become on the take. They're taking lots of money from liberal entities and progressive entities, and that's a problem in the news media.
We are going to talk about that news media after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.